Last Week in Southern Labor is a segment where every week we talk about what happened in the last week in the labor movement in the South of the United States. We pull this information from whogetsthebird.substack.com with the permission of the author, Jonah Furman. He is a staff writer and reporter and organizer at Labor Notes, which is very good. And he does a newsletter every week where he compiles what happened in the last week in the U.S. labor movement all across the United States. We pull what happened in the South. If you want to see what happened in the rest of the United States, which there's a lot that happens. There's a lot that happens every week that we don't talk about because we want you to go and subscribe to the newsletter. It's very good. But we just talk about what happened in the South. So go subscribe to the newsletter. It's really good. I recommend it. Let's go ahead and talk about what happened last week in Southern labor. First, in organizing, we had 38 drivers for Ryder Logistics in Southwest Ranches, Florida. They are organizing with Teamsters Local 769. There are 7 more workers at the Atlanta Gaslight Company. They're organizing with the IBEW, which is another small group of workers organized at the utility this summer. 10 mechanics and technicians for WAI Construction in Huntsville, Alabama, voted 8-1 to join the Operating Engineers Local 320. I'm going to have to send a congratulations to those folks over there. It is the first non-security guard NLRB win in Alabama since 2019. Wow.
See, we had some good news today.
150 armed and unarmed transportation officers for MVM in McAllen, Texas, are unionizing with SPFPA. The staff of the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, unionized with SEIU Local 500 by 67% in a card check election. Very cool. The Alphabet Workers Union, CWA, has apparently filed its first NLRB representation petition, which is very cool. It's not on the site yet, but the NLRB lags a few days. For 11 employees at a Google Fiber retail store in Kansas City, Missouri. So far, the wall-to-wall Google Union has focused on organizing tools outside of the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board process, but this could mark a shift in strategy or just a variety of tactics being used, which I'm an advocate for. A new Amazon election date was set, but the union is signaling concerns. In a statement, they said, quote, "We are deeply concerned that the decision fails to adequately prevent Amazon from continuing its objectionable behavior in a new election. We proposed to the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, a number of remedies that could have made the process fairer to workers, which were not taken up in the notice of election issued today. Workers' voices can and must be heard fairly, unencumbered by Amazon's limitless power to control what must be a fair and free election, and we will continue to hold them accountable for their actions." So that is concerning, but there is, and in the broader, to kind of more broadly contextualize, the win rate for rerun elections is only 40% compared to 67% for first union elections. And the win rate decreases as you get a larger and larger bargaining unit. And the bargaining unit at the Amazon facility in Bessemer is something like 6,000. So it's
an uphill battle.
It's an uphill battle,
is what you're saying.
Definitely.
And I wanted to make sure we clearly stated this was the Bessemer, Alabama Amazon warehouse, and the union here is RWDSU,
the Retail Wholesale Department Store Union.
Right. So I want to make sure everybody was following us on that.
Yep. And but there is some cause for hope. I talked to the lead organizer of the campaign, and he said that the the support that they've seen from the labor movement has been fantastic. And in fact, my union, this was news to me, and it was so cool to hear that. We talked to Reverend Everett Kelly, the national president of the American Federation of Government Employees last week, and he mentioned something about supporting the campaign. And so I talked to the organizer, the lead organizer on the campaign about that, and he said that AFGE had sent or is sending for 1 month 6 staffers to support the campaign, which is like, that's so cool. You're going to get 6 staffers, 6 organizers from AFGE to support this RWDSU campaign. The Teamsters are doing similar things. SEIU is doing similar things. The UAW is doing similar things. This is just fantastic. But like SEIU or like the Teamsters, you could say that, they've got like a vested interest there because, they're going to want to organize the Amazon drivers, of course. And that's true. But AFGE has no like direct interest in Amazon workers organizing because we're a federal employee union. We represent federal employees. It doesn't help us directly, of course. It helps us indirectly is the point. But it doesn't directly help us if Amazon workers unionize. But as part of the labor movement, as working people, an injury to one is an injury to all, and a victory for one is a victory for all. And so I'm so proud, so proud of my union for this this real and genuine material support for the campaign. And I'm so proud of other unions in the labor movement doing that. And it's exciting. It's an uphill battle, but hopefully they'll be able to climb it.
Absolutely. And this display of solidarity, that's what it's all about. And, on this show, we are obviously pro-union, but we at times, we offer our critiques of the unions as institutions. But this right here, this is why you pay your dues to your national and international. Sometimes, you can start to wonder, like, where does this money go? Why can't the local, keep all of this? Well, this is a good demonstration of why your dues dollars can be important, because it can allow your national and international unions to do shared staffing, to send in resources and staffers and support to other campaigns. And so next time, next year, next campaign, when it's you on the line, you and your brothers and sisters, hopefully they can return the favor. So that's what it's all about, and that is good news.
In strikes and bargaining, the UMWA strikers at Warrior Met in Brookwood, Alabama have enjoyed no breakthrough, unfortunately. Kim Kelly wrote for The Nation about why the miners won't quit after 10 months out of work. We are now past 288 days on strike, the longest strike in Alabama history. The longest strike in Alabama history. The Special Metals strike by 440 members of the Steelworkers Local 40 in Huntington, West Virginia, just passed its 100th day, with the company now planning to permanently eliminate 75 jobs. That's crazy.
I did see where Senator Bernie Sanders has come out in support of those steelworkers and has been trying to raise money for them, I believe, in their strike fund. And
he talked to them in a live stream with workers from the BCTGM John Denaire strike in Los Angeles and miners from the UMWA in Alabama.
Yes, I saw some familiar faces, some of our friends of the show interviewed there, and just saw a little headline that Senator Sanders, along with Elizabeth Warren and Tammy Baldwin, have come out to put more pressure on the investors that own Warrior Met coal to settle this strike and resolve it in favor of the workers. And while I think you and I are on the same page, we are not that big a fan of electoral politics and probably don't follow it as closely as we used to. That's what you want to see out of an elected official. If you want to be pro-worker, to tie it back to our city councilor from earlier, that's the way you can be pro-worker. Raise money for strike funds. Use your influence and position to pressure these just hedge fund vampires in Wall Street to settle these strikes.
The steelworkers have tabled a new proposal to Exxon to end the 8-month lockout in Beaumont, Texas. The proposal also covers workers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who are not locked out, but the company rejected it. Meanwhile, ballots on a decertification vote are still impounded, and there's concern that the company doesn't, that they may just want to wait and see how that goes, how the decertification vote among the scabs goes before entertaining any deals. Very important context here is that the Steelworkers Pattern Agreement, covering 30,000 workers at 20 refineries across 12 employers, expires on February the 1st. Marathon is the lead negotiating target, but obviously what happens there will affect Exxon as part of the pattern. Educators in Orange County, Florida, are at an impasse with the district over pay as teachers leave the profession in droves. Despite people saying that this has been 2 years of a paid vacation. I mean, give me an effing break. Despite teachers leaving in droves while COVID rages in a state with one of the lowest average teacher salaries in the country. The lowest average salaries for teachers in the country. The district is offering a $3,500 to $6,500 supplement, mostly in one-time bonuses, and the union says it isn't enough, which is obvious, and which likely, objectively, isn't going to address staffing issues, let alone fairness issues. Obviously. The president of the ATU Local 1395, representing transit workers in Escambia County, Florida, Escambia, has his transit job back after an arbitrator ruled his April 2020 firing 2 years ago. He was fired 2 years ago. An arbitrator ruled that it was unjustified. The reason he was fired is that he let a camera crew onto company property to highlight the COVID safety issues in the early days of the pandemic. An arbitrator ruled that firing was unjustified. The headline is that the process works, quote unquote, but that is gobsmacking. 2 years out of a job for an unjust firing, only to be reinstated by an independent arbitrator, does not sound like a good process or a process working, but it's still more of a process, to tie it back again, it's still more of a process than any worker without a union contract has. No non-union worker will have an arbitrator rule in their favor on an unjust firing because no non-union worker is going to have the opportunity to take his case to an arbitrator. American Airlines and the Allied Pilots Association are seeking to bargain a new contract in a super compressed lightning round of negotiations meeting 5 days a week for 4 weeks starting on January 17th. While remote work for teachers gets all the attention, AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees, has filed a complaint against the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, not with but against the EEOC, as the EEOC is the employer, for refusing to bargain over telework provisions. This has been a rolling fight across several federal employers. And fortunately for us here in Huntsville, our commanders have been extremely reasonable in negotiations about telework because they're not being needlessly obstinate because they saw that we were able to work at home. And so, largely speaking, federal employees, if you're able to do your job at home in Huntsville, you have been given that option, which is good.
That's definitely good news, and it just seems like some common sense.
Right.
It is,
and some people,
it's interesting that the EEOC, which is, especially those of you who don't have unions, that would be, your main federal agency you could go to bring forth a complaint or try to address discrimination, and yet here they are, the subject of their own union complaint because of the way they are treating their own employees. If anyone ought to know better, it ought to be them. But that's a common theme on the show with both agencies and institutions.
Yeah. Legislation in Florida seeks to end dues deduction, where the employer automatically deducts union dues from your paycheck and sends it to the union as agreed to in the union contract for most public employees. But notably, of course, not cops, firefighters, or prison workers, because cops are super special boys.
Way to just make it obvious that it is a very ideological thing. I've seen politicians talk before, like, we shouldn't use the government resources for this, and it literally is just, the union sends them a file
Right.
They upload it.
Right.
It's a very I'm sure it
I mean,
varies
it's just
by union and payroll process, but it's not a very involved process. It's the employee's money that's being deducted. So,
Right.
But yeah, to carve out these exceptions makes it very obvious what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Cops are super special, boys. We don't want you to get your feelings hurt. If you have a gun, we love you so much. You're very special. You get your dues deducted, but nobody else, because you're special. The bill would also decertify public unions that fall below 50% membership among the represented unit, which would, of course, be more likely in the event that unions have to independently collect dues for each would-be member. And, again, this is just like an extra step to make it more difficult for workers to advocate for themselves.
Absolutely, because if you're in a private industry union, of course, that's one of the things you can negotiate is dues deduction in your contract. But the state of Florida is trying to take that option away from many of their workers.
But not cops, because they're special. We can't forget the special snowflakes. Support for this program also comes from the Iron Workers Local 477. So if you are looking for contractors with lower than average EMR and TRIR, they tell me that if you need to know what those mean, then you will. Or if you need to supplement a workforce at any level for any amount of time, short or long term, if you need iron workers that come trained and certified at no extra cost, or if you need workers from superintendent down to general laborer, and you're looking to start work on a project, or you're unhappy with your current contractor situation, you need to call my friend Jeb Miles with the Iron Workers Local 477. They only work with the best in the business, vetted contractors, and can do all kinds of jobs, from roofing to steel and bridge erection, from welding to heavy rigging, from structural repairs to machinery alignment, and much more. They supply manpower on 4 of the 5 largest projects in North Alabama, so you know they're legit. If you need good quality, safe, efficient, diligent, and knowledgeable workers on your job, then you need the Iron Workers Local 477. Call Jeb Miles at 256-383-3334 or via email at local477@bellsouth.net, and make sure you tell them that you heard about them on the Valley Labor Report.